Good morning, students, and welcome. This is Mr. Charles, and I'll accompany you through this IGCSE online session number 5. Please go to your coursebook, page 125, Unit 5, Family and Friends, Matchmaking. Let's read together. Read this extract from the Joy Luck Club by the Chinese-American writer Amy Tan. The Matchmaker. The village matchmaker came to my family when I was just 2 years old. No, nobody told me this. I remember it all. It was summertime, very hot and dusty outside, and I could hear cicadas crying in the yard. We were under some trees in our orchard. The servants and my brothers were picking pears high above me, and I was sitting in my mother's hot, sticky arms. I was waving my hand this way and that because in front of me floated a small bird with horns and colorful paper-thin wings. And then the paper bird flew away, and in front of me were two ladies. I remember them because one lady made watery shra shra sounds. When I was older, I came to recognize this as a Peking accent, which sounds quite strange to Taiwan people's ears. The two ladies were looking at my face without talking. The lady with the watery voice had a painted face that was melting. The other lady had the dry face of an old tree trunk. She looked first at me, then at the painted lady. Of course, now I know the tree trunk lady was the old village matchmaker, and the other was Huang Tai Tai, the mother of the boy I would be forced to marry. No, it's not true what some Chinese say about girl babies being worthless. It depends on what kind of girl baby you are. In my case, people could see my value. I looked and smelled like a precious bun cake, sweet with a good clean color. The matchmaker bragged about me, an earth horse for an earth sheep. This is the best marriage combination. She patted my arm and I pushed her hand away. Huang Tai Tai whispered in her shra shra voice that perhaps I had an unusually bad temper. But the matchmaker laughed and said, "Not so, not so. She's a strong horse. She will grow up to be a hard worker who serves you well in your old age." And this is when Huang Tai Tai looked down at me with a cloudy face, as though she could penetrate my thoughts, see my future intentions. I'll never forget her look. Her eyes opened wide. She searched my face carefully, and then she smiled. I could see a large gold tooth staring at me like the blinding sun, and then the rest of her teeth opened wide, as if she were going to swallow me down in one piece. This is how I became betrothed to Huang Tai Tai's son, who I later discovered was just a baby, 1 year younger than me. His name was Tian Yan for sky, because he was so important, and Yo meaning leftovers, because when he was born, his father was very sick, and his family thought he might die. Tianyo would be the leftover of his father's spirit. But his father lived, and his grandmother was scared that ghosts would turn their attention to this baby boy and take him instead. So they watched him carefully, made all of his decisions, and he became very spoiled. But even I had known I was getting such a bad husband. I had no choice, now or later. That was how backward families in the country were. We were always the last to give up stupid old-fashioned customs. In other cities already, a man could choose his own wife, with his parents' permission, of course. But we were cut off from this type of new thought. You never heard if ideas were better in another city, only if they were worse. We were told stories of sons who were so influenced by bad wives that they threw their old, crying parents out into the streets. So Taiwanese mothers continued to choose their daughters in law, ones who would raise their proper sons, care for old people, and faithfully sweep the family burial grounds long after the old ladies had gone to their graves. Even clean the graves. Because I was promised to Huang's son for marriage, my own family began treating me as if I belonged to somebody else. My mother would say to me when the rice bowl went up to my face too many times, "Look how much Huang Taitei's daughter can eat." My mother did not treat me this way because she didn't love me. She would say this biting back her tongue, so she wouldn't wish for something that was no longer hers. Reading exercise, page 126. Now you may pause the video for questions 1 and 2. They require about 15 to 20 minutes. Solve them and come back. Now let's do the exercises together. Question 1. Reread lines 22 to 42 from the matchmaker bragged until very spoiled. A. Identify a phrase that tells you how old the narrator in this scene. Well, there is no exact age for her, but we see her saying Huang Teite's son was just a baby, 1 year younger than I. So baby and 1 year younger than her, this means that she's a baby as well. B. Identify a phrase that indicates the girl is going to have to work hard for her future mother-in-law. This is said by the matchmaker when she says she will grow up to be a hard worker who serves you well in your old age. C. Give 2 reasons why Tian Yan is probably not going to grow into a responsible, caring husband. This is because, as they mentioned, he was supposed to accompany his father's dead or dead spirit, but his father did die, and his grandmother was scared of his or of ghosts to come and take the grandson soul, so they spoiled him a lot. Because he was overprotected and spoiled, they made all his decisions and was very spoiled indeed. D. Reread lines 54 to 60 from Because I Was Promised until No Longer Hers. Using your own words, describe how the narrator's family treat her once she has been promised to Huang's son. While she was eating the rice bowl, and her mother made that comment. This is partially opinionated, but her mother would treat her differently, that's for sure. She names her after her new family's name, though not to make her feel estranged, not to make her feel bad or like a stranger, but because the mother is trying to get used to the saddening fact that this girl does not belong to her anymore. She is sad that her daughter is about to part her and go to someone else. So she calls her that name to get herself into the habit of getting used to her not being around, not being hers anymore. Question 2. Reread the first 3 paragraphs of the text where the narrator gives her first impressions of the matchmaker and the future mother-in-law. Explain how the author has used 2 of the 5 senses to describe these impressions. Include the following points in your numbering. 1. What is being described, which sense the author is using, and how the author has used this imagery. You may choose whatever you find out of the five senses. I chose four, and we'll do them together. The visual related images related to the sense of the eye. Butterfly, you see it. Melting face, she sees it. The watery face of the other lady. The matchmaker's face was like an old tree trunk. These are all visually oriented images. Oral relate to the ear, the to be heard images. The Pekin accent, which is a Beijing kind of accent. The cicadas, which are loud, shrilling insects in gardens. And the shra sounds, they're all to be heard. Kinesthetic, images related to touch, hot or sense, feel, hot. And the weather was hot, it was the summertime. And then she says, my mother's hot, sticky arms. So hot and sticky as well. Olfactory, related to smelling or to the nose, when the matchmaker calls her a bun cake. Now go to pages 127 and 128, Saving Richard Parker. Let's read together. The narrator's family run a zoo. In this scene, they are transporting some of their animals in a ship when there is a terrible storm. We'll read the extract and make notes on how and why the narrator tries to save the tiger called Richard Parker. Ravi is the narrator's brother. The ship sank. It made a sound like a monstrous metallic burp. Things bubbled at the surface and then vanished. Everything was screaming. The sea, the wind, my heart. From the lifeboat, I saw something in the water. I cried, Richard Parker, is that you? It is so hard to see. Oh, that this rain would stop. Richard Parker? Richard Parker? Yes, it is you. I could see his head. He was struggling to stay at the surface of the water. Don't give up, please. Come to the lifeboat. Do you hear this whistle? Tree, tree, tree. You heard right. Swim, swim. You're a strong swimmer. It's not 100 feet. He had seen me. He looked panic-stricken. He stared or he started swimming my way. The water about him was shifting wildly. He looked small and helpless. Richard Parker, can you believe what has happened to us? Tell me it's a bad dream. Tell me it's not real. Tell me I'm still in my bunk on the Simsum and I'm tossing and turning, and soon I'll wake up from this nightmare. Tell me I'm still happy. Mother, my tender guardian angel of wisdom, where are you? And you, Father, my loving worrywart. And you, Ravi, dazzling hero of my childhood. Again he whistles, tree, tree, tree. I was not wounded in any part of my body. I had never experienced such intense pain, such ripping of the nerves, such an ache of the heart. He would not make it. He would drown. He was hardly moving forward, and his movements were weak. His nose and mouth kept dipping under water. Only his eyes were steadily on me. What are you doing, Richard Parker? Don't you love life? Keep swimming then. Kick with your legs. Kick, kick, kick. He stirred in the water and made to swim. And what of my extended family? Birds and beasts and reptiles. They too have drowned. Every single thing I value in life has been destroyed. His head was barely over water. He was looking up, taking in the sky one last time. There was a life buoy in the boat with a rope tied to it. I took hold of it and waved it in the air. Do you see the life buoy, Richard Parker? Do you see it? Catch hold of it. Humph! I'll try again. Humph! He was too far, but the sight of the life buoy flying his way gave him hope. He revived and started beating the water with vigorous, desperate strokes. That's right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Breathe when you can. Watch for the waves. Look how close you are. Hooray! Hooray! You've made it, Richard Parker. You've made it. Catch. I threw the life buoy mightily. It fell in the water, right in front of him. With his last energies, he stretched forward and took hold of it. Hold on tight. I'll pull you in. Don't let go. Pull with your eyes while I pull with my hands. In a few seconds, you'll be aboard and we'll be together. Wait a second. Together? We'll be together? Have I gone mad? I woke up to what I was doing. I yanked on the rope. Let's go on that life buoy, Richard. Or let go, he's demanding of him. Let go of that life buoy, Richard Parker. Let go, I said. I don't want you here. Do you understand? Go somewhere else. Leave me alone. Get lost. Drown. Drown. He was kicking vigorously with his legs. I grabbed an oar. I thrust it at him, meaning to push him away. I missed and lost hold of the oar. I grabbed another oar. I dropped it in an oarlock and pulled as hard as I could, meaning to move the lifeboat away. All I accomplished was to turn the lifeboat a little, bringing one end closer to Richard Parker. I would hit him on the head. I lifted the oar in the air. He was too fast. He reached up and pulled himself aboard. I had a wet, trembling, half-drowned, heaving and coughing 3-year-old adult Bengal tiger in my lifeboat. Richard Parker rose unsteadily to his feet on the tarpaulin, eyes blazing as they met mine, ears laid tight to his head. All weapons drawn. His head was the size and the color of the life buoy, with teeth. By Jan Martel, The Life of Pi. The reading exercise about implicit meanings, page 128. Pause the video again, please. Try to solve this in bullet points. No need to write paragraphs. So bullet points about how and why the boy in this extract tried to save Richard Parker. Include quotations to support your ideas. You will need less than 15 minutes for this. Please solve it and then come back. Let's do it now. First of all, Pi is a mere boy on his own in a traumatic and dangerous situation. We should establish the point that he's a boy lost at sea after a vigorous storm, and he's alone on a boat. So he's traumatized and he feels he's in danger. This enables the natural feeling for him to respond to any familiar face, that of Richard Parker that he saw. Richard Parker was a member of Pi's extended family, as mentioned in line 39. Richard Parker looks panic-stricken. This is mentioned in line 15. And it is natural for us, boys or men, or girls or ladies, to yearn to those who are drowning to try and save them, whether they are people or creatures or animals. Pi may feel a sense of responsibility since he belongs, or since Richard belongs to his family. So he encourages him as he would to another human. And he keeps telling him, don't give up, hold on tight, as in line 11. How does he save him? He repeatedly whistles loudly to him, and he throws objects on Richard Parker can clinch on. For example, the oar that he throws at him. We're done for today. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe and keep up the good work.